I took my business from zero to over $10 million when Awesome Mayo told me to do this. Pop quiz, you guys. Who said that and when? You get 5 gold stars if you knew that answer without looking it up. You have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that was back a testimonial I got way back in 2007. The good old days before anybody had ever heard of kale. And the person who said that was Jared Yellen. And I took this story, I took that sentence, that one sentence, and I used it as a headline to promote a business building workshop that I did for a very small group of clients. I only allowed about 30 students in that room. It sold out immediately, and each attendee paid over $20,000 to be there. And on day one, I asked them what they wanted to learn most. What was the number one thing they wanted to learn? And the top answer I got was that they wanted to know how Jared had made that $10 million. By then, it was more than double that, by the way, but they wanted to know that. They wanted to know that headline that I took my business from zero to 10 million when Awesome Mayo told me to do this. That's what they wanted to know. What was the this that he was talking about? That was a big question from day one that everybody wanted an answer to. And I'm going to tell you the answer to that question. But first, I want to give you a little quiz to see if you can figure it out, because I really should make you work for it, right? The big secret like this. One of the students that was there was Daisy. She came all the way from Australia. So not only did she pay the 20 grand plus, but she also paid the flight and the booking and all the traveling to go from Australia all the way here. And she said that when she learned this one little secret, this alone was worth over 100 times the cost of the travel and the event. All that from this one little secret. So here's my question, my one question quiz to you. Do you know what the answer is? Now that may seem kind of weird, right? I mean, how could you possibly already know what it is? Well, actually, the answer is so deceptively brilliant, so easy to miss and underappreciated that I won't blame you for missing it. But don't worry, I'm not going to drag this out. I have a bunch of cliffhangers I'm about to tell you right now. I'm not going to keep you in suspense. I'm going to tell you in about 10 seconds. Well, actually, that's not true because I've already told you the answer. I've already given you the answer. I've said it 3 times. The answer to the question, how do you start from zero and make over $10 million? What's the secret behind doing that? So clever this gem of brilliance is that it's perfectly hidden in the camouflage of the obvious. The big secret is to come up with drums, please. These are my drums. The big secret is to come up with a quiz. I'm Awesome Mayo, rhymes with KO. So you want to know a simple way to take a business from zero to 10 million and beyond? We had that testimony from that student like we talked about. One of our heroes recently right now is making over $1 million a year doing this. Anna has a few heroes doing quite well, anywhere from 10, 20, 30 grand a month doing this. And they're just doing this one thing. You can go out quickly and make immediate cash and also build up your equity and get your passive income going. We already went over the answer. It's coming up with a quiz. That's it. You come up with a quiz. We call this technique the quiz model. There's 2 main ways to use a quiz. One is a lead generator. The other is a lead converter. We're going to talk about both of those today. The converting of leads is the main focus. The famous English poet and short story pioneer Alfred Coppard once described a particularly lazy character in a story by saying that he ate like Satan and worked like a gnat. And that's how most business owners feel about the results of their marketing. They complain like the devil, but they work like a gnat to fix the problem. By the end of today's class, you'll see how to use a simple quiz to magically take normal LC marketing and turn it into monstrosities of predictable sources of leads and revenue. You'll be able to turn your team around, even if you feel like you're surrounded by LCs. Remember, a lot of times while people are sucking the life from your soul is because you keep giving them the straw. You have to have brilliance like this to turn things around. So I'm going to tell you 5 stories today, and by the end, you'll know exactly, I promise you'll know exactly how to come up with a powerful quiz that converts leads into loyal clients, how to disempower all your competition and make each one of your competitors look like a rotting pile of feces, and you'll see crazy examples of exactly how a simple quiz can be used to create passive income that will last for generations. So here we go. Story number 1, the world's #1 bird watcher. So as you guys know, I love birds. My beautiful babies, Iago and Zazu, are Solomon Island Eclectus parrots. They are on the endangered species list, so our team, we've done all kinds of work with birds and different animals, breeding eagles, setting up sanctuaries for falcons in Dubai, supporting a number of bird rescue groups and other endangered species and other animal rescue groups. And one of my favorite people to read about is a woman named Phoebe Snetzinger. She was a famous lover of birds, a professional bird watcher who had seen and documented over 8,300 different bird species. Unfortunately, Phoebe passed away before I ever found her work or ever got a chance to meet her. She was a well-known author, researcher, and lecturer, and I learned a lot from her work about birds. She's amazing. She's brilliant. I know people are kind of like surprised that bird watching is a thing, but it really is. It's kind of a big deal. A lot of people do it. I actually met the legendary horror director Wes Craven through bird watching. He loved birds too. He became one of our clients for our parrot business. Birds is also how I met Hugh Hefner and Playboy and Steven Tyler. They also became clients of ours. If you watch Scream 5, by the way, that was the first Scream movie that was not directed by Wes Craven. It was after he passed. At the very end of the movie, when the credits roll, the first credit says "For Wes," and you hear birds chirping in the background. Anyway, Anyway, bird watching really is a thing, and it's kind of a big deal, much like myself, right? The Guinness Book of World Records called Phoebe the world's #1 bird watcher. Phoebe had seen and documented more birds than any other human being on the planet. She's been very inspiring to us, to me, to our whole team. She's done a lot of our work. She's been really inspiring to a lot of the work we're doing. And when I lived in Missouri, I went out of my way to do deals in her old neighborhood of Webster Groves. We did some rehab projects in her name as our kind of way of giving back. We wanted to support her, right? Phoebe was a badass. We're sending love to her every day. And just think about this. There's like 9,500 different species of birds, and she was the only human being on Earth that had personally seen and documented over 8,000 of them. Crazy, right? And it wasn't just her, by the way. 3 of her 4 kids have grown up and become legends in the world of birds as well. Her daughter, Carol, researched birds in Alaska and the Northwest. Her second daughter studies owls. Her son, Tom, worked for the U.S. government and studied endangered species of birds. The whole family is crazy about birds. I love them all. This family is like the single most famous family, like the first family of birds, right? The most famous family, most expert family in the world when it comes to birds. So anyway, what's my point? Why am I telling you all this? Well, we're going to come back to Phoebe Snetzinger later, so put a pin in that. We'll come back to that later. Now let's move on to story number 2. Big peas will never sell. In the 1920s, Ward Cosgrove was an executive on the board of the Minnesota Valley Canning Company when he traveled to Europe and learned about a very large garden pea called the Prince of Wales. After tasting the giant pea and having his employees do a taste test, Cosgrove was convinced that if he brought that pea back to America, it would be a huge success, but that's not what happened. Happy with the taste, but unhappy with the pea's giant size, retailers, grocery stores, and food chains rejected the pea, saying, quote, "Big peas will never sell." Cosgrove heard the same rejection across the country. Not a single store in America placed an order, and his own marketing team told him that they were out of ideas and he should just drop it. Throw in the towel, they said. It's a waste of time. But eventually, Cosgrove did something magical that would change his life and the direction of his company. He came up with a quiz. So he went back to the stores and he asked them a series of questions, and they were told that these questions were a way to help them optimize their floor space. But really, this quiz was a disguised way for Cosgrove to find out what their criteria was for ordering stuff. In other words, what do I have to do? What boxes do I have to check for you guys to order these giant peas? At first, he got basic answers like, oh, we look at consumer demand, industry practices, seasonal items, blah, blah, blah. But then somebody said we also go by customer request, and that was the gold mine. Ward Cosgrove knew that this was a secret golden ticket. He had to go straight to the consumers, directly to the consumers, and educate them. Cosgrove combined brains with a Chicago ad executive named Leo Burnett. We'll come back to him later. And instead of running away from the size of the giant peas, they leaned into it. They called the brand the Green Giant. The company hated the name. The president at the time, Bill Dietrich, said, "Who ever heard of a green giant?" And he wasn't the only one. The company lawyer, Warwick Keegan, said that the name was too generic since both green and giant were adjectives. It would be hard to trademark such common adjectives. He suggested using the word real to differentiate themselves. But it was the ad man, Leo Burnett. This was his first client working with Cosgrove. This was his first client, and he settled the disagreement by creating a character with a big smile and a valley to roam in and having him speak the famous words, ho, ho, ho. And instead of calling him the real Green Giant, he called him the Jolly Green Giant. Now, guys, it is like nearly impossible to overstate how successful this campaign was on influencing customers to go to their stores and request and demand that they order Jolly Green Giant peas and eventually other vegetables as well. This was a huge game changer. To get some understanding of how influential the Jolly Green Giant is, check this out. In the 1960s, a controversial rock and roll group, the Kingsmen, made a song named The Jolly Green Giant about the giant's sex life. It was a parody song that went viral and was number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. Advertising Age ranked all the top advertising icons from 1900 to 2000, and they ranked the Green Giant number 3, only beaten by the Marlboro Man and Ronald McDonald. In the 1970s, the U.S. government was building the nation's first transcontinental highway, and the president of Green Giant at the time, Thomas Wyman, worked successfully to get the highway rerouted to go buy a giant statue that he got local businesses to pay $50,000 for. That statue was a 55-foot tall statue of the Green Giant that is still up today, and it's been a tourist attraction for over 40 years. Our nation's first transcontinental highway was rerouted to go by their logo. Think about that. So it gives you just a taste of how successful this campaign was. Eventually, the Minnesota Valley Canning Company changed their name to the Green Giant Company. They were enormously influential in shaping industry practices on vegetable production, advertising, and sale. The company was sold in 2015 for over $700 million. Today, they have about 400 employees with annual sales of over $500 million. And Cosgrove was told to drop this idea and move on. And the successful man is the one who can lay a firm foundation with bricks others have thrown at him, as the saying goes. The success of Green Giant is bonkers, right? As we always say, if they doubt how far you can go, go so far that you can't hear them anymore, right? But keep in mind, the seed of all of that, the catalyst for the Jolly Green Giant, all those orders, everything that happened, it was the catalyst of it. The seed of it was the quiz. That's what changed everything. But it doesn't stop there, which brings us to story number 3, from 2 employees to over 9,000. So remember, all that craziness, all that success with the Green Giant, it all started from a quiz, but the ramifications, the ripples didn't stop there. Remember that ad man from Chicago that I said we'd come back to, Leo Burnett? This was actually his first client. And this being his first client, it was such a success. The Jolly Green Giant was such a success, it changed Leo Burnett's life and eventually changed all advertising in America and then eventually all advertising and marketing around the world. After this, Burnett and his company went on to create the Marlboro Man, Tony the Tiger, the Maytag Repairman, the United Airlines slogan, the Fly the Friendly Skies, Allstate slogan, You're in Good Hands, the Pillsbury Doughboy, the Keebler Elves, Charlie the Tuna for Starkist. In fact, the phrase Sorry Charlie actually came from these ads, the ads for Starkist. It was crazy, and when he started out, it was just him. And when he worked with the Green Giant, he had one client and 2 employees. But by the end of the 1950s, this company was doing over $100 million a year back in the 50s. Leo Burnett is a multi-billion-dollar company that has over 9,000 employees in 80 offices in 70 countries. And remember, the base of Leo Burnett was the Jolly Green Giant, and the base of that was a quiz. We have no idea the ripple effects we can cause. Your job is just to make them. And remember, all of this was from that failing idea. So look at yourself in the mirror and remind yourself that most people will succeed until they fail, but the champion fails until they succeed. Now, you may be wondering how I know so much about this. Well, as you may know, I was trained by the best copywriter to ever live. I paid him a small fortune. I was one of the only students he ever took, provided I never told anybody, partly because he didn't want anyone to know he was for hire. And so when I was writing, he told me to get a job at a big advertising firm. He told me to go through the back door, not the front door. Go through the back door. What does that mean? It means get your head out of the gutter, first of all. But it really means that instead of going and applying and getting a regular job with a title so that I could say, oh, look at me, I work for Burnett or something like that. Instead of that, just agree to be a ghostwriter, a hired gun, if you will. So my job interview was just to write some copy and turn it in. If they liked it, I would be hired with no background check, no resume, no fancy title, nothing. I would just be someone who writes and my name wouldn't be on anything. So I went through my interview, I turned my work in, I turned in a couple jobs, 2 or 3 jobs. After looking at my work, they loved it. How they got over the fact that a mind so brilliant was contained in a body so beautiful as anybody's guess, but somehow they did, and they hired me. I was officially an unofficial copywriter for the Leo Burnett Company. I never met him, by the way. He passed away in the 70s, but people at companies like this, they usually hate people like us. I think he would have loved me, but a lot of these people like very top hat and monocle, I do declare, very ritzy, very, very ritzy. That's the kind of ambiance they want, and people like us, we're like writing headlines that are like, oh, pound her all night to sell Viagra, right? So we usually are 2 different worlds. But we made it work, and I wrote for a number of clients in all kinds of different industries, and that's what really sharpened my skill. When you sit down with a new company or a new industry, and you have to take a second and really build the voice, and it helps to change everything. You have to understand the industry. It helps you become a much better writer of headlines, a better compliance gainer. During my time there, I worked as a ghostwriter for these big advertising firms, and that leads us to story number 4, 10 questions that made me $15 million. Okay, so this is the longest story today. So at the time when I was ghostwriting for these big ad agencies, I was not doing it for the money. I was doing it because I wanted the experience and I wanted the ability to test headlines and to test copy. And there's resources you have at a big company that you wouldn't have, working in my basement. And I could get real-time data and make some really good contacts. So our goal was to come up with tricks that would get people to tear the articles out, keep them around, and share them with others. And one of the best ways to do this is to use, you can probably guess, a quiz. So I would proofread different articles and different copy, and then I would always ask myself, how could I turn this into a quiz? And then I'd have my junior writers on our team do the exact same thing. People would turn work into us and we try to come up with a quiz. And then to test if the quiz was a good one, I'd take a few copies of the quiz and I'd leave it in the break room on the table. We call this the quiz test or the tape test. I'd sit back and I'd look for people to do 3 things. First, I want them to take the quiz themselves, but second, they should take it and they should take a copy of it and tape it up on their desk, the tape test, like their desk or their cubicle, tape it up there. And third, they should share it. And I mean share it in some way. Maybe they ask somebody else the questions on the quiz, they compare answers, or they talk about it, or they argue, or they disagree. There's something. We're just looking for some engagement with that quiz. I'd sit back and I'd watch the entire floor interact with the quiz, and that would tell me how good it was. If they ignored it, or if they didn't share it, I would drop it and we'd have to come up with a better one. See, now that's an example of a resource you would only have at a big firm. And you don't have to do this, by the way. If you're trying to come up with a quiz, you don't have to do this, by the way, but if you do come up with a quiz, as you're doing this, you want to have some guinea pigs to test your research. You can do this with pay-per-click, you can do this with informal testing, you can play it by ear, you can use the templates in this class, you can just thug life it and guess, but just pick a quiz or pick an article, pick some content that you want to turn into a quiz, then pick a headline, and then you can test it. I'm going to show you how today, and that's what I'm about to show you how to do. So here's how you come up with a quiz and how you can turn any piece of marketing into a lead generating and lead converting quiz. You get good at this and you'll always have opportunities just waiting around for you. Remember, when you're trained, we don't look for food, we look for ingredients. So here are the 5 parts of the quiz. First, you need a headline with some teeth, some benefit that they really want or pain that they want to avoid. Second, you need a challenge, something like how many do you know? How many of these are you doing? Can you spot the best idea? Are you doing this right now? Which of these mistakes are you making? Something like that. That's the challenge part. That's the challenge part. 3 is that you have to have the authority. This is the story behind who came up with these questions and why. 4, we have the actual quiz itself. This is the actual questions, the self-assessment or the evaluation. And then 5, we have the grading and the call to action. So lastly, we allow them to add up their results and categorize themselves. And based on their answers and based on their category, you suggest the next steps for them to take. So an article on how to turn a man on becomes 21 ways to make a man jealous. How many do you know? 8 porn stars reveal their secrets. Do you see 3 of the things, right? The headline, 21 ways to make a man jealous. The challenge, how many do you know? And then the authority, 8 porn stars reveal their secrets. So then we took an ad that was advertising marriage counseling and we turned it into a quiz. 34 relationship and divorce attorneys spill the beans on their ... how to win back your ex. Hollywood divorce attorney, or another version, Hollywood divorce attorney, here's how clients got their spouse to change their minds, ... How many of these ideas have you tried? Or see if you can figure out why these work so well. You see each of those 3 parts, right? First we have the headline, then we have the actual challenge, and then we have the authority. The authority in this case, Hollywood divorce attorney, or the 34 relationship and divorce attorneys, right? So we have some authority that helps us come up with this quiz. And by the way, if you go through our class on how to write 500-word articles and make $2 to $3 grand a month or $2 to $3 grand a week with 500-word articles, we always talk about having 2 to 3 authorities in each article that you write. So if you do that, then using these authorities becomes really easy. So you can come up with these quizzes at light speed. People love romance stories. They always love romance quizzes. So an article on dating tips becomes 5 signs he's falling in love with you but won't admit it, ... People love quizzes like that. They love quizzes about love or how to spot if somebody's lying to them. So an ad about a relationship book turned into a quiz, 10 signs he's cheating on you, ... LAPD lie detector explains how to spot deception. How many of these giveaways have you noticed? Again, you notice the first 3 things, right? The headline, the authority, and then the challenge. Again, people love quizzes about love. And by the way, as we always say, if you are lucky enough to be in love right now with that special person and they love you, then you need to cherish every moment because one day before you know it, you'll block each other. Another example, an advertisement promoting a self-defense workshop becomes how to disarm a robber in the blink of an eye. Special Forces operative shares black belt moves that turn civilians into weapons. This 10-point checklist could save your life, ... Or what to do if somebody pulls a gun on you, ? Top 7 tips from Special Forces combat expert. How well would you do? Now those last few ones, by the way, those are quizzes that we use as lead generators for Indiana's first ever kickboxing school. And then we use them and they use them in Taiwan for a chain of gyms over there. And that was a very old testimonial we had from Philip Wong. He was the entrepreneur that really brought kickboxing and MMA to Indianapolis. One little quiz totally reshaped the entire fight community in Indiana. It's crazy how much a quiz can do. An ad about I Buy Homes turns into in foreclosure, ? 5 signs that you can still stay in your house without selling or needing to move, ... Or 3 ways you can beat the bank in court and have the judge give you the house free and clear. Supreme Court clerk breaks his silence. See if any of these apply to you. Okay, so now you should be able to spot the headline, the authority, and the challenge, right? But those are only 3 parts. That leaves the other 2 parts of the quiz. First, we have the quiz themselves and then the grading part. Well, here's the deal on that. Now that you know the 5 parts of the quiz, there's 3 kinds of questions that you want to have on the actual quiz itself. There's 3 types of questions, I should say. 1 is binary. This would be simple yes or no questions, check boxes, or like a pre-flight checklist. Again, you want things that people are going to tear out, they're going to keep around for months and months and years, right? So it needs to have very quick, very simple, very easy answers. That's the binary. That's number 1. Second is numbers. This is where questions have more than one answer and different answers carry a different value, and then that value is added up and they're scored to see how well they did. And then the third category, which is by far the best and highest compliance gaining one, is coaching and homework. This is where you not only quiz your target, but you give them the exact scripts and dialogue to use on your competitors to make sure that they get the best deal. So which one do you use? It depends where you are in the 5 crowds. Right now our focus is mainly on either lead generation or better lead conversion. So for lead generation, you want to use a binary quiz because it's very low commitment, very quick, and it helps build trust. So for lead generation, use a binary quiz. Then for lead converting, you want to use a number quiz. And then for both and for immediate positioning, you want to use coaching and homework quiz. We call it that, by the way, because you'll be coaching them on what to say and how well they do. The homework quiz comes with self-similarity because it's a quiz of its own. It has a quiz within a quiz, right? And then at the end, you want to have a way for them to check their answers and see how they did. This is the grading and call to action part. They need to be able to look at their answers and categorize themselves. Every example I've given you, by the way, are real life examples that we've used. You've probably seen some of our more recent examples. 5 signs it's time to buy life insurance for your family. Question mark. By the way, that's another one. Just add a question mark to any sentence. It's a good test for headlines. And then after that, it says world famous cardiologist, warning signs you'll die in the next 3 years. Or are you an alcoholic? Oldest living AA sponsor says these 10 questions can save a life. Is your husband addicted to porn? Marriage counselor suggests warning signs to catch it before it's too late. The same thing with, by the way, is your wife or husband cheating on you? Do you have an endangered or undiscovered species of bird in your backyard? Smithsonian archaeologist says it is more common than you think. Have you noticed any of these 7 signs that you have a secret dinosaur in your yard? Birds are dinosaurs, in case you're wondering. And then one of our best ones, 5 questions to ask your financial advisor before you trust them with a single penny. Reformed Wall Street hedge fund advisor dishes on the top secret signals that you're being ripped off. Ask these questions. And whenever we use a coaching or quiz, whenever we use a homework quiz, we want to have good answers and bad answers and the exact words that the target can use to distinguish which ones are which. So what about getting your business to $20 million? How did Jared do it? So imagine you want to work with medical groups, right? And you keep trying to get appointments with them and they keep blowing you off. So instead you send them a letter and then a follow-up campaign. And then when you meet them, you go through this evaluation quiz that reads, do you need to replace your medical billing company? 5 signs you can or 5 signs you should replace your medical billing company without missing a beat in less than 72 hours. Millionaire surgeon admits, quote, I nearly went bankrupt because I ignored these warning signs, end quote, That single quiz was how they boosted their compliance and totally changed their sales presentations. Their revenue goals, everything changed because they were immediately positioned as interviewers. That was the quiz that Jared used to build his business from 0 to 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, and then beyond. It was all because of how they converted their leads. They sent this quiz over to them, then they would answer the questions in person. Instead of trying to get an appointment with people, they constantly had problems, right? They were trying to beat them into submission, but instead of doing that, a quiz totally changes the dynamic. It's much better to generate a lead with a binary quiz, and then potentially, now that they've raised their hand, now they get a coaching quiz. So by the time you talk to them, they've already seen your brilliance in action and they've screened competitors, and they saw that everybody else is an LC. I love training sales team to start appointments with a quiz. This helps with positioning, easing pressure, making sure you stay on script, involving your target in the closing process so they're engaged, and it makes closing natural because you just add up their scores and categorize them right then and there with them. So instead of asking leading questions and feeling gross about the sale, you simply ask the words, I have an evaluation quiz. This is the exact script we use. I have an evaluation quiz here, and we found that if anybody answers yes to 3 of these 10 questions, then we normally can double their business. Would you be offended if I asked you these 10 questions and we grade your answers together? Everybody asked for it, right? And now you give them the answer key before you start asking them the questions, and you explain, quote, based on the answers to these 10 questions, you'll be in one of these 3 categories. Category 1 is that you're doing great and you have a great solution for your medical billing needs, and maybe we can help you in some other way. Category 2 means you have some room for improvement and we can make a few suggestions. Category 3 means you have major deficiencies and immediate corrective actions are needed that will not only stop the bleeding and bring you back to health, but that will also potentially double or more your revenue. Does that all make sense? Everyone understands it, and then at the end of the quiz, you ask the questions, you add them up, you grade and categorize, and the closing is as simple as saying, so the next step is ... blank. And voila! A 30 to 90 minute sales presentation was condensed into less than 5 minutes with over 5 times the closing rate. The salespeople were now advisors and counselors. You know, your face always says what your words don't, but so does your tone, and when you're not selling, you're actually helping. It changes everything. That's how Jared and his team, that's how they'd gone from 0 to over $20 million. That's how powerful a single quiz can be. You can build a $20 million juggernaut with just one quiz. That's my milkshake that brings them boys to the yard. Download free examples at bigria.com. Also, if you guys want more real life examples, by the way, you can go to bigria.com and see some real life examples that we use to generate leads. We have an Empire IQ test to see if you'll ever make 30 grand a month or ever make 100 grand a month or whatever it is. Will you ever get your real estate business there? You can look at it, and it's just a series of yes-no questions. What is that called? It's called a binary quiz. Very good. It's meant for lead generation. Then we have a numbers quiz. That's a personality quiz to see if you would make a good student. Are you going to be a good student that's going to get your business up from 0 to 30 grand a month? You can check that out. It's a lead converting quiz because it's a numbers quiz, right? Then the Mac Daddy of quizzes, the coaching, the scripting quiz, a homework quiz. That's the do you need to replace your property management quiz. And that quiz, I make it clear in that document that it's for out-of-state investors who own property in Indianapolis, and it's how they can grade their current property managers. We have the exact scripts, questions, and quiz that people can use, as well as the grading process, so they can download it and they can do the work and actually evaluate their own people and evaluate other people all for free. In the first 90 days that we put it up, Anna made a class about this. It was downloaded about 20 times a day in the first 90 days, which might not sound like much, and I understand that, but you got to consider how qualified these leads are. It's crazy, and it was all from search. These are all out-of-state Indianapolis property owners who are unhappy with their property management. And of course, after using the homework, they realize that their people suck and that they want help, right? So they go to other people, they start talking to other people, they ask them the questions in the quiz, and they find out everybody else sucks. And so they turn to Anna, they go to Anna, and they need help, like, hey, can you connect us with people? This is also why we set up the page, bigria.com/people. That page now is producing over 6 figures a month for Anna and the team. team. She's gotten over 200 doors managed. I think it's over 300 now from this little quiz. People come to Anna and say, hey, I need help. Some of these people have 20, 30, 40, 50 doors at a time. And people love it when you go above and beyond and you teach them about an industry so they can feel like insiders. In fact, I'm telling you something right now that nobody is active and is crazy and is, profitable and is lucrative and is attractive. How many people are in the Indianapolis market from out of state I'm talking about? Nobody has come up with this. It's crazy. That's why you cannot search. It is impossible to search for Indiana real estate and not come across our stuff. And this quiz just keeps getting downloaded every day. People use it. They do the work. They follow the scripts and they realize, wow, I need to really get a serious property management team and there's nobody out there. Then they come to Anna and they feel so much smarter. They feel like insiders. They want to learn the basic vocabulary and terms, what to ask. And like I said, the exact scripts to use. They want their spouse looking at them saying, how did you know that? How did you know what to say? They want to be able to say the same thing that I say when somebody asks me if I know anybody that can build an ark. I know a guy. Don't laugh. Do not laugh. You're only going to encourage me. Oh, here we go. That was, what are we looking for? A boat joke? All right. What is a shopaholic? Why does a shopaholic always go to the boat store? Because there's always a sale. No, don't laugh. I want to keep going. Did you know my rowing team won the tournament? Can you believe it? Oh my goodness. You see, you're encouraging me. I wasn't going to go boating, but I had to seize the day. See what you made me do? See what you made me do? You see what you're doing? Now it's too late. Don't give me a stern look now. Okay. Listen, shit happens. Okay. I need to stop. Don't encourage me. I don't mean to keep doing this. I don't. What can I say? I like big boats. I cannot lie. No, we're done. Moving on. Anyways, guys, Anna's on track to have picked up and outsourced about 200 to 300 houses from out-of-state investors. And remember, we only manage properties that we and our heroes buy. So we send those properties out to other property managers, but we make sure that those property managers are qualified and they're following our policies. But if we did manage those properties ourselves, we would instantly be one of the biggest property managers in the entire Midwest. People spend decades trying to get to that place, and we could have gotten there with a single quiz, y'all. That's how powerful they are. There is no competition. I can comfortably sit here, make this free video, tell you exactly how it's done, and nobody's gonna do it. There still won't be any competition. We're annihilating these turds, guys. A quiz can change your life, and it can continue paying you for generations. We are all shadows in the wall of time. Make sure yours extends past your lifetime. BigRia.com. In fact, I'll even go a step further and share a big secret with you guys. Thank you so much for the growth. BigRia.com. Go there now. We're the number one channel in Indiana real estate, the number one YouTube channel for Indiana real estate, the largest real estate media company in the Midwest. All kinds of records we're setting. BigRia.com. All kinds of amazing stuff. And if you don't know, this project started because I have a son who has special needs. That's how I met Anna. We developed a therapy process for folks with special needs that involves business building, compliance, gaining influential communication skills, real estate investing, business building, all kinds of cool stuff. You can read all about it at BigRia.com. And the reason I give away so much stuff here is because I love you guys. It's because of you that we've had all this growth. Thank you so much. We love you. But like I said, I'm going to go a step further. The reason why BigRia.com keeps setting records every day with our traffic and why it's so profitable with relatively low traffic and why there are multiple pages on that site that are doing now close to over $100,000 a month. The secret to the SEO and getting leads like that automatically, just having leads magnetically sucking leads, sucking all the oxygen out of the room. First, you have to attract traffic, right? That's obvious. You have to get traffic, but then you need the traffic to do three things. First, they need to stay on the page, meaning that they're getting something out of the page. Second, you need them to click on other stuff, meaning you not only solved the problem, but you were relevant enough. You had other relevant stuff there. But the other thing, the one thing that everybody misses is that you need to have helpful and relevant content. But the last one is huge. The third thing is that they need to download stuff because it shows you're helpful and trustworthy. And that's partly why we don't force email opt-ins. You can download hundreds of scripts and different checklists and all kinds of free stuff at BigRia. And you can even get those quizzes I talked about. Ones that are actively converting leads right now. You don't even need to opt into anything, but you can do it because it helps. You should do it for the same reason you should hit that like button, by the way, on the video. It doesn't matter if you subscribe, but you should like the video. It tells the degenerate child molesters at Google that we helped you, and it can help them put this video in front of somebody else that could change somebody's life. But like I said, that's a big secret. You want people downloading stuff. The reason why we're having hockey stick growth is because our site is becoming trusted every single day. Trusted, more and more trusted. And that's because of you. Thank you so much. Okay, so that's the quiz. The 5 parts, the 3 kinds of questions, several examples, how to use them to dominate online, and so much more than any human being on earth can do, or I guess will do. Nobody's going to compete with you. Build your nobody mountain. You'll smoke everybody. It's like I said, try to do anything with Indiana real estate, not come across our stuff, our brilliant stuff. It's impossible. Also remember that you have the exact templates to turn any marketing into a lead generation machine by making it a quiz. If you're at zero, you can do this right now. Start looking it around. Just start looking at marketing around you and just ask yourself, how can I turn this into a shareable quiz that people would keep and find useful? If you're already marketing, it's not too late. People always tell us, oh man, I wish I found your stuff out earlier. But look, nobody can go back and change how your story started, but you can start today and change how it ends. I mean, think about that. Going from 0 to about 300 doors from a single quiz. It's crazy pants. That's how powerful, guys. A quiz is amazing. It can change your life. But now it's time for that last story. Story number 5. Everything happens for a reason. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. Okay guys, this is our last story today. I'm going to tell you something absolutely bonkers, something totally nuts that blew my mind. So remember back in story number 1, I told you about the world's most famous bird watcher? I told her about how much I loved her and how influenced we've been by her work, Phoebe Snetzinger, and how much I've always thought how great it would be if I had met her or been able to use my skills like copywriting or phone stuff, or it would have been great for somebody who had such an impact on my life to be able to help them in some way. If I had found some way to use my unfairly allocated sexual charisma to help her in some way, that would have been spectacular, right? Seriously though, I really did always want to help her, and I always thought, man, it would have been great for somebody who influenced us so much if I had some way of paying her back, right? But I hadn't come across her work. I didn't get my babies even till well after she had passed. That's how I felt for all these years, by the way, that I just missed that chance. But very recently, I found something out. Remember when I went to her old neighborhood and did deals? Well, we still own real estate in her old hood, just as a respectful nod to her. I'm just talking about this has been a very influential woman, okay? So remember when I said, when I went over the history of the quiz, how it's been used in marketing and how I did all this copywriting around this lead generation secret, right? Well, it turns out that Phoebe Snetzinger was actually born Phoebe Burnett. Phoebe Burnett, as in Leo Burnett, as in she was actually his daughter. What? Yes, she was his daughter. And what's more is that during the time that I was doing these quizzes and copywriting for her dad's company, she was an actual client. So I've been going back, man, I've been searching to try to see if I could find anything. I haven't found anything yet. It was so long ago. But it's like, did I do anything that was for her or her company? So I've been making calls, I've sent emails the last few days. It was so long ago right now that nothing's come up. But one thing is for sure, that even if I myself did not write for her, one of the teams that I was running definitely did, since we had done pretty much all the work at that time. And that's the crazy part, guys, because all these years I thought about how great it would have been if I had worked with her, how cool it would have been to help Phoebe. But this whole time I never knew that I had worked for her dad's company and maybe even for her directly. And what I probably did was the very same thing that was the base of her father's multi-billion-dollar company. I made her a quiz. How crazy is that? Oh my gosh, it's been blowing my mind. Everything is related. Everything happens for a reason. Do beautiful things for others that'll come back to you tenfold. I hope I came up with a quiz that changed her business and really improved her life. Man, I'm sure I did, because I'm bad, man. I'm bad. I gargle peanut butter, man. I'm bad. Go to BigRia.com. Guys, this story's been blowing my mind how this came together. That's why you got to hit that like button. Tell those child molesters at Google that this video helped you. Go to BigRia.com. Download free stuff. Go out. Change the world. Make it happen now. I love you.
I got his band like I'm Barry Bonds. Running through the money, but the money's long. I don't love it, but I need it, keep it coming on. Only friendly, me and friends, we don't get along. I put that on my name, that I put them on. I put myself on stage and say sing along. I might book a session, do 100 songs. I'ma let you hear them just to prove you wrong. On track.